Hey there, this is Jexy with the Systems Alliance, and in this video, we're going to go over Aquaman's opening, no, not in the United States, but in China. And with just one country alone, it ended up being the #1 movie globally this past weekend. So I haven't done a movie box office update in a while, and in case you were wondering the reason, I just haven't been on top of it. There's definitely been some weekends I wanted to cover, but I just haven't gotten to them, unfortunately. And oddly enough, the weekend that I come back, it's a really slow weekend actually. One of the slowest I've actually seen in a really long time. Wreck-It Ralph in its third week dropped 36% to finish at 16.2 million, and that was good enough for #1 domestic. #2 was Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, finishing at 15 million, only down 16% from its previous weekend, and this is its 5th week out. Creed 2 in its third week is down 40% for 10 million. Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald is down 39% to finish at 7 million, and that's in its 4th week. And rounding out the top 5 was Bohemian Rhapsody at 6.1 million, down just 23%, and that's in its 6th week. So obviously very slow domestic. Internationally and domestic, nothing really new is opening, so Aquaman finishing #1 with just one country, while surprising, isn't the most surprising given these low totals. That being said, there are some impressive totals. Bohemian Rhapsody is now the #1 music biopic of all time, with a global gross sitting just under 600 million. And honestly, no music biopic, however you want to say it, has come even close to that. So this is obviously a smash runaway hit, especially when you consider the budget was only 52 million. Now you move on to Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. That's at 570 million, so that seems like a lot, but the budget was $200 million. So they're not seeing nearly the return they expected to, and this is a huge disappointment for Warner Brothers. Obviously, the movie in general, if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, is a huge disappointment for many fans, with many actually feeling as though the movie insulted them, their intelligence, their being, whatever it is. And when adjusted for inflation, every single Harry Potter movie made over $1 billion. So just think about that. Every single Harry Potter movie, over $1 billion. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was the first one to be under, but it still finished with about 850 million. So the fact that this Fantastic Beasts is already slowing down and it's only at 570, it looks like WB and everyone involved is going to have to do some soul searching. Are we going down the right path with these movies? Because less and less people seem to like them. We're still spending a ton of money to produce them. Is this dead? Should we just go back to something else? Should we retool? That's for them to decide, but definitely not looking too great when every movie you put out makes less and less money. So as I mentioned, Ralph Breaks the Internet coming in first at 16.2 million. Good enough for #1 domestic, but obviously still small overall. Aquaman, though, in China alone, came in with $94.2 million, and that was good enough to put it at #1 for the global box office this weekend. Now, for those of you who don't know, Aquaman is not yet available here in the United States or anywhere else in the world. If you have Amazon Prime, which of course many of you have, you can check out Aquaman a week early. The box office total will most likely not go towards the opening weekend, but obviously it will go to the total box office overall. So it's kind of like when a movie opens on, say, a Wednesday, those first couple days are not counted towards its weekend box office. I believe this happened with Man of Steel, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously a bunch of other movies, where the opening weekend box office was a little stunted because of the early opening. So the same here will happen for Aquaman. So tracking wise, I know they said maybe 100 million, maybe more. It's a little bit difficult when tons of people with Amazon Prime memberships are going to be checking the show out, and we know they are because it's sold out in so many theaters. It's available in multiple theater chains, not just one, and yet most of the seating when you go and look is either sold out completely or you only have the front rows to be able to see it, and no one wants to sit in the front rows, come on. But this is a really good sign for Aquaman for its overall box office, because China won, hugely important, and Venom, which opened in China at just over $100 million, has over $200 million there now, well into the 200s, so that would put Aquaman on pace to be also in the 200 million range for just China alone. And when you're looking at global box office returns, you need a hefty China return now. If you look at all the largest movies around the world, especially ones that seem surprising to you, like maybe the Fast and Furious franchise, go look at their global box office total by country. China's going to be #1 for them, almost guaranteed. And in many cases is bringing in more money than even the domestic take from the United States and Canada. And if you didn't know, Venom is now at over $850 million with a hefty chunk from China, so it definitely does help boost your total box office. Adjusted for inflation, Venom right now is about tied with Wonder Woman for total box office, but the difference is that Wonder Woman brought in an adjusted over $420 million domestic. So that's a massive hit domestic, whereas Venom is only at 212, so just about half that. But since they're the same, that means that much more came from the international box office and a lot of that from China. So that's what makes it up right there. And that's one of the reasons why Star Wars is looking a little bit iffy, because the last couple movies, they've really been losing the Chinese audience. So if you're able to capture that, that's huge. Now, what does it say for maybe the quality of the movie? No idea. We know a lot of the movies that are big, flashy blockbusters tend to do well in China, regardless of how they're viewed here. So sometimes they do really well over there, and it's a great movie here, and sometimes they don't. So we'll just have to see about that, but the trailers definitely look good. I also want to note that this is Warner Brothers' largest opening ever in China. So every single movie that they've ever done, this is the largest. And if you're just thinking about the DC universe right now, the fact that this is the largest definitely bodes well, because the DC movies have done pretty well overseas already. So does this mean Aquaman can do the best overseas out of any of them? Maybe. We'll just have to see. It's also the largest industry opening as a whole for China in the month of December. So the fact that it's breaking records is definitely a good sign for Aquaman. And unlike most of these superhero movies, Aquaman next weekend opens in 40 more territories, including the UK, Mexico, Brazil, and Russia. So normally you get the opening here and then it flows to overseas, or sometimes it's a worldwide opening at the same date, usually not backwards and usually not with this much of a lag time. The film may not open for another couple weeks here, but I guess maybe if you have Amazon Prime, you could see the movie the same time as all these other countries next week. It'll be interesting to see how much money this movie makes before it actually hits US shores. No pun intended. I know it's Aquaman. Shores, ocean. Anyway, it definitely seems as of right now that WB has a big hit on their hands with Aquaman, but let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think that massive opening in China for Aquaman bodes well for the film internationally as a whole? Do you think it'll have any effect on how many people see it here, in terms of, do you think it's going to be a big smash hit here? Do you think it's going to be average? Do you think it's going to be a dud here? Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Twitter, and we'll catch you later.